Hello, welcome to this class. I'm Gospel Darlington, and in this teaching, I want to tell you about the Solidity arrays. Okay, there are about two kinds of arrays in Solidity. We have the fixed arrays and the dynamic arrays. So, what are arrays in the first place? Arrays are data structures that enables you to collect a series of elements, to collect multiple items of the same type or multiple types. Okay, but in Solidity, the case is a little bit different. Solidity only allows you to take a certain type, the same type of data type. Okay, when you're putting it in an array. So an array can only have the same data type when you're using Solidity. Okay, why? Because Solidity is a statically typed language. That means the data type which a variable or a data structure must carry should and must be specified before the time of compilation. So once the code is compiled, it's going to be based on those data structures and variable data types that you've declared from the beginning. And within the program, there is no dynamics for your program changing the type of data. This was actually done to reduce anything that has to do with flaws in data type, flaws in programming, and also to improve maintainability of your smart contract. So that is why they put it like that. So without further ado, let's jump into the tutorial and let me show you how to create a fixed and a dynamic array. So to create an array, you use this flow. Let's say an array of unsigned integer. So let's say it's 256. Then you declare that, and then you make it public, of course, because you want to get access to it. But let's just keep it private. So let's say this is fixed array. Okay, and okay, so this is how you will declare it. But this is how you declare a variable. But to make it an array, you just specify this square bracket here. This square bracket indicates to the Solidity compiler that this particular variable will be collecting a series of uint 256, that is unsigned integer of size 256. Okay, but what makes it fixed is that you go ahead and specify, let's say you're specifying 6 elements. So this array, you're saying that it should only take 6 items and nothing more than that. So if you come here and now you declare, okay, in an array you have 1, 0, 3, 4, 8, 9. Right? When I save this, you see that this compiles properly by using Ctrl S, because there are about 6 of them here, which stays within the size of that particular array. So when I go here and add one extra and I compile, you see that an error pops up saying, because the error is coming up because the size of the integer, the size of the array has exceeded the one that was specified. The specification was 6, but now it's 7. So there is no space for that. So for you to cure this error, you just need to change it to 7, and that will work just fine. So that is how a fixed array works in brief. So what about a dynamic array? This is how you will create a dynamic array. I'm going to change this to dynamics, but you don't specify the size of an array when you're using the dynamic array, because by default the dynamic array is designed to accumulate as many elements as possible, as many items as possible, without limitations, without any form of boundaries around it. So it's a free kind of array, and this is how you utilize it basically. Okay, for example, I'm going to double sort of double the size of this array. You see that it's taking almost 2 times of what this takes, and you see that it will not complain. Everything works just great. That is one of the coolest thing about dynamic arrays. I use them often because they are just suitable for what I want them for. Okay, this fixed array can be very helpful when you're trying to conserve memory space and you want to limit the number of items that come into an array. Then you have to use this fixed array. But when you don't know from the onset the size, the number of entry that this array is going to be collecting, then it is wise for you to use a dynamic array. So, but how do you access them? You can access them using a function. And how you can do that is by specifying, let's say, a function, call it get fixed array. Okay, and let's make sure that this thing is public and it's view, of course, and returns a unsigned integer, and it's actually returning an array of it. And then you say returns fixed array. So when I compile this, you see that it brings out an error saying that I should specify the place that this data will be stored once it is retrieved from the storage, because state variable by default are placed in the storage instead of the memory. So now I'm going to say you should put it in the memory. Okay, now I save it, brings another query saying this fixed array is not convertible. All what it's saying is that this is a fixed array, so specify the size that it should return. It should be 7. That is what I'm saying. So when we save that, you see that everything works fantastic. So now let's just duplicate this, and let's call this get dyn arrays, and this time you change this to dyn array, and then you save, and it's telling you about that same thing as before, but this time it's because you're actually specifying the size. A dynamic array shouldn't be constrained by size, so you remove that size, and then you save that. You see everything is all good now. The array and Solidity are smiling. So now with that, let's deploy this to the network again and find out how they perform. So when you click on that deploy button, you can open the array. You can see that these are the two present buttons there because of these two functions. And now you can say get fixed array. It returns and tells you that okay, this is a fixed array that is returning, and the size is 7, and you can see these as 7 elements within the array, and this dynamic array returns unlimited as well. So this is how you get it done in Solidity. So with that said, I'm going to have to meet you in the next class.